And we're off. Welcome to the races that I like to call Navigating Mindfulness. We are here talking about building our businesses and enveloping personal growth strategies so that not only do we feel good, we succeed good. I know that was not appropriate English, but you know what? I make the rules here. My name is Cheryl Sutherland, and I'm the founder of Please Notes Goods, in addition to a multitude of things. And I'm joined by my awesome co-host, the one and only, the baddest of them all, Lisa McHale.
Hi,
And
welcome.
and
You're
today,
hilarious.
I know. I think it's a grapefruit that I had just went straight to my head. But so this week we've been playing a lot about, or we've been playing around a lot with different apps and et cetera, et cetera. And I got into Clubhouse about, like, I want to say almost 2 months ago, and I have been LOVING ing it. Okay. Like, I've been loving, like, just not only like the connections I've been able to make, the people I've been able to play with, but then also the business resources that I've absorbed. And then, of course, as you know, depending on when you're hearing this, Clubhouse is a audio only platform. That's a social networking platform. You have all these different rooms. You can start your own conversations, join conversations, listen in. However, there's just been so many layers of great things that have happened. And then even within the business structure itself, like the way that they rolled it out was terribly, terribly interesting because it created so much FOMO. In addition, with the app rolling out, like, there's some tips, there's some tricks, and there's also some things to take a look at, like, so you do not get caught up, because it's very easy to get caught up. There are Clubhouse scammers out here, y'all, and I've met more than one. And just talking about the ramifications of being on there and not coming correct with your business. So let's talk about Clubhouse, shall we? Getting in the club. Ow, Lisa. Okay, so I know I said how long I've been in there
Yeah.
for. How long have you been in there for? How did you get in? And well, I know, but how did you get in? And then what has been your experience so far?
Well, thank you. And I love this topic because I've been on maybe for about a month now, and we had a guest who had like an invite, and she invited us or invited me, who had already been on. Um, and it's been interesting. Like, I love talking on the phone. Like, that is like I think even when I was a child, I knew already, right? I think from graduating from elementary school, it was like, I will bell operator. And then, when I first business was phone based. So I love the concept of it. So it's been really, really awesome. I can see why you would like it too, right? Like, when we're connection based, we're relationship based. All of the things that you wanted to touch on, I'm ready to jump in on all parts of that. So in short, I've been on for about a month. I probably jump on for anywhere from 1 to, I think the longest I've been on is like 2 or 3 hours. Um, and I've actually been in your room or your club. I don't even know what the correct terminology for that is. So definitely want
Hmm,
to talk to
hmm.
you about that. Um, I don't know if I had any FOMO. I was more on the other side where I was like, oh man, another thing that I gotta. I mean, that was really mine, which is why I think when you first brought it up, I was like, not right now. Like, I'm in the middle of doing XYZ things. Um, my understanding though was this was originally more for the creatives,
Mm.
artists and people in the music maybe industry. Um, but the model itself is so good. And so um, I want to say tangible, but it's relative to anybody that has a phone. So let's talk
Mhm.
about your first point there that you wanted to bring out about this new envious app that is connecting. I don't even know what the total usage is, but I'm going to say
Yeah,
it's quite large.
it is. And it actually keeps expanding exponentially. Like, so right now it's still in beta, it's still iPhone only. And so the only way that you're able to get on is either if I'm a member and I have you on my phone, I see you register, I can wave you in, or I get invites weekly. And then once those invites are out, then I mean, I'm done for the week, right? And then depending on how much engagement you do on the app, whether you facilitate, moderate, open clubs, have conversations, get on stage, then it increases the amount that you get on a more frequent basis. So, like, for me, my first week I was on there, I got one, and then I got, like, I think my second week I got three, and then my third week I got one, and then after that every single week I've been getting 3 invites. And I think it's because A, I opened up my own Clubhouse, which means that I could have Clubhouse rooms underneath this lovely banner, have members in there, facilitate different workshops and stuff, and just like have a really great reach, and just continue building that up. So it's interesting because this app it's super, super underground, and it was only spread through word of mouth. And so when I first encountered it, I was actually working with my PR agent, and her friend gave her an invite, but she only had an Android at the time. And so she was like, I have this invite, like, how do I get on this? And she was trying to get into her sister's old iPhone so that she can like set it up. And I'm like, dude, like, why don't you just like, I have this extra phone, like I can download the app and register you. And then so I registered her, and then she like got the confirmation text to her phone, and then ended up like signing her up, and then I signed me up, and then that's how I got into the Clubhouse. I kind of staked myself an invite, not gonna lie. And then after that, she ended up getting an iPhone 12, completely switching from Android. And people are actually going out there buying phones specifically just to be on this app, like revving up old iPads or buying iPads. They're like, yeah, okay, well, I kind of needed this anyway, just to get on this app. Now, this is really cool because you have an amazing space where you can connect with people on a very level playing ground. Like there's times where you're on stage with like multi-million dollar marketers. There's times where you're on stage or in the same room as like top grade celebrities, comedians, like really high functioning people in these fields. You can connect it to people with like, I've been in some rooms where people have been able to get like the 35,000 they've needed to advance their project, whether it's through investment or if they're a nonprofit looking for something. Like the level of connection is so serious. In addition, just even the amount of gems that get dropped on a regular basis. Like there's so many times where I'll just learn stuff that I wouldn't be able to learn, like whether it's new strategies to take into Instagram or to LinkedIn or to Pinterest, that I feel like, oh my gosh, I can tangibly take this and use this in my business, and it will make a real difference in my business. Even when it comes to like rolling in a subscription model, I'm like, I know I want a subscription model, I don't know what that is. And then in being in one room within an hour, I was like, okay, I know exactly what this plays out, this is how I'm going to set this up, and this is like the software that I'm going to use in order to make sure that that's all modified, like, and I'll put it into place. Like there's just so many things. However, even within that, there's also the opportunity to get caught up. Some people really ruin like their sleep cycles and be up until 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the morning because they're engrossed in these conversations. And it's so delicious that they actually put it out right now, because this is the time where people are really reaching for conversation, really reaching for connection. And the fact that I don't have to sit in an awkward position and hold my phone up, or, I'm able to passively be engaged and listen and have these conversations is so important. Like there's so many people that are doing things on Zoom, but some people feel very self-conscious about like their background or their environment. However, with this, it's like you have the opportunity just to be able to connect with people and just be you, and like not have any judgment on yourself. Like the logistics doesn't matter. How many followers to followees doesn't really matter. Well, it didn't really matter when you first got on there. And just the amount of growth that they've had has been amazing. So when I got on, there was about 80,000 members, and it's I think they're over like 2 million right now. So it's pretty wild, and I'm really loving it.
Yeah. I love how passionate you are about it. And like, I love that you are actually getting gems. So again, I could be on there for like 1 minute. The longest I've been on is, I think, 2.5 hours, like I said. And it was because it was one of those, I happened to have time and it was like in the background, and it was really, I really wanted to know how to use it, right? Like I see it coming together. And so today we actually had our very first, I hosted my very first event where we did, I've been walking and talking on the phone forever and a day. And I was like, let's see who I will meet in my walk virtually, because I'm not even allowed to talk to people on the street anymore. Right. So it's like, and we did that today, and it was really interesting to meet somebody brand new, have, yourself pop in just to say hi. But some of the connections that I have had, not anything like what you've had. Um, well, I could say from marketing, like hearing how to build funnels, that definitely came up. But I actually waved somebody in that had ones I worked with. I was welcomed somebody, like you get notified, I think, based on your contacts, who has joined and who's being welcomed into the room, which I love, because you're welcoming your people in. And so just to say hi, and we discovered that he was actually looking for a service provider 15 years ago. And I pulled up my notes and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. We spoke back in like 2007. So those have been really interesting connections. And then a cousin that I used to go to school with back in the day. So waving people in has been really, really fun, and welcoming people has been fun. So Cheryl, where do you want to go next? Because you had a pretty comprehensive list and I don't want to miss anything in terms of the highlights, and yet we can go all over the place with Clubhouse. So I know we're talking about like the different experiences that we had. Do we want to talk about some of the just like, hey, be aware of, or maybe a little bit more of the functionality? What's your flavor right now?
Yeah, I feel like I really want to talk about, like, first of all, coming from a business perspective,
For sure.
their marketing strategy. And basically, they did what I like to call a whisper campaign, where they never really came out and said, like, hey, check out this new app, or, the opposite of what Quibi did. So if you were familiar with Quibi, it was this short form video platform. And they basically just got like a bunch of really big Hollywood stars to do a bunch of 10-minute videos or 10-minute movies that really never took off because they didn't have an audience. Like, it was kind of weird, like, who's going to watch this video for 10 minutes? It was just not a good execution, right? They thought they knew what people wanted and they didn't ask people what they wanted. Basically poured millions of dollars into advertising, da 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 da, and then it just fell flat and folded. While with Clubhouse, you hearing, like, especially now, even in Facebook and some of the business Facebook groups I'm in, people are like, have you heard of Clubhouse? Do you have an invite? Like, people are creating follow trains on Facebook so people can add people and people are selling invites. And then just hearing this in the background, you're like, oh, well, what is this Clubhouse? Should I pay attention to this? Now, for some people, if you've never heard of it, you're just like, yeah, cool. Yeah, whatever. Like, let me play with it. However, the amount of people that are sitting out there, like, waiting and like asking to get in is huge, which makes you really want to stay on there longer because you're like wanting to build your own stature. Or some people are like, oh, I want to become a Clubhouse influencer, et cetera, et cetera. So from a marketing strategy, they really use that level of exclusivity. And this is key because, like, creating that level of FOMO, creating that level of buzz, as we know, word of mouth marketing is one of the most effective forms of marketing. And then so even talking to people like within the app about, like, they have like these meetings, these town hall meetings where they're like, hey, this is what's going on. This is like, if you're new to the app, this is how you should play on there, not to do, what to do, but then also like where we're going with this. And so it gives people a little bit like of guidance of like, oh, I think this is a really great step, like creating your own Clubhouse and hosting these meetings, because then it could be a way to monetize having only members only meetings that you could be a part of. Like, there's just so much opportunity. And I think also, like, people are really tired of a lot of these old social networks that it's not about the experience anymore. Instagram stopped being about the experience. It started being about, how can we monetize these people? How could we make them stay on longer? Even with Facebook, like, you go into Facebook and it's just dreary and it's sad and it's the land of the forgotten toys, right? Or the land of the misfit toys. And you're just like, you don't feel good going on Facebook anymore. So this one, it's something that's nice and fresh and fruity. It's like a sorbet cleaning your palate or whatever as well. However,
Like, really?
yes. However, with that as well, like, you have the option to just learn so much more. Like, I was in another group where it was like the Jewish tribe and friends. And so I'm living in Calgary. We never really had a lot of Jewish people, or I was never exposed to a lot of Jewish people there. Only when I moved to LA was when I got in touch or connected with any Jewish people, but I never had the opportunity to really steep in that culture. Now, the great thing about that is, I was able to pop into this room and just listen and observe and like let people have these conversations that I would have never been privy to before. They've got like a whole bunch of people from the UK, from LA, from Atlanta, from wherever. And it's just, again, an opportunity to connect and learn, which I think is super important as well. One of the things that I will say that they've done really, really good is they've also made it kind of like what TikTok did, is they made the cross-platform sharing easy. So if you are on Clubhouse, you'll see you have your bio, and then at the bottom, you can either integrate in your Facebook link, or sorry, your um, Twitter link or your Instagram link. And that way, that if you wanted to continue having a conversation offline, you certainly can. And then also, if you have like a Clubhouse scheduled, you can actually share it using Twitter. Again, bringing up the brand notoriety. People are like, oh, what is this group? Like, what is this conversation? And it's only these people are coming together, but only on this platform, right? So making you really want to get into it. But I say that also because for me, it's been really good for my business because I'm honestly, I feel like Instagram is such a time suck and it's an energy suck because feeling like I cannot ever do enough to make sure that enough people are seeing my platform. Like I'm always just on this hill, like climbing and being like, every time I look at my analytics, it's like, oh, like 50 people followed, but like 85 people left. And it was like really getting to the point where it was unhealthy. And so with using Clubhouse, I'm able to host a room, have a really great conversation. And while you're talking, people are clicking on your profile, clicking on your website, and looking at all the things that you have to make sure, A, you're a real person and they're able to connect with your content in different ways. So sometimes I'll have a Clubhouse room that I'll run for like a half an hour, whichever, and or I'll get on somebody else's stage and have a conversation or get into something that I'm really passionate about. And then I look at my Instagram and I've got like 20 new followers. Now, I could have invested 3 times the amount of time and money boosting an ad or boosting a post on Instagram, and I wouldn't have that same
Same
turnaround. So
result.
like, yeah, same result. So like, what is the point? And it doesn't feel as good investing in there. So again, like there's just so many different things. Like not only did they use that strategy of FOMO to really get people in and exclusivity, but then also I feel like having that cross-platform um, integration made it super, super easy for them to not only be amplified, but for people to buy into the hype and jump in.
I have a question for you from a strategic perspective. When you, because I haven't linked my Instagram or Twitter to Clubhouse, and I've been called out on it a couple of times. People are like, how do I reach you? And because I'm still in my discovery phase, I'm like, well, just, my first name, last name at, whatever email address. Um, and I see you shaking your head. My question is, which profiles did you link? Did you link your personal or did you link your business?
Yeah,
It
so I
sounds.
think it really comes down to what is the conversations that you're having and what
Mhm.
are you passionate about, right? So if if for me, I linked my business Instagram because obviously like that's the biggest one that I have, like the biggest platform that I have. And then also it's normally like it's in alignment with what I'm primarily talking about as well.
Mhm.
Or if I'm on stage asking for advice about like, launching a program and stuff like that, then people can quickly like look to and refer and flip through my Instagram. Now
Mhm.
for my Twitter, I never use my business Twitter. It's either like me complaining, asking for something, blah, 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 and I'm not like a Twitter fan. So I actually integrated in my personal Twitter. And the only reason that I use my personal Twitter is that's the one that Obama follows me on. So I'm like, let me just like, so that's like my little bit of clout chasing there. But otherwise, I would just put like my business Twitter and stuff. And again, it's been called out for people so much because like you're taking away that next level of connectivity. So some people
Connectivity.
are like,
Mhm.
yeah, just even create like a brand new Instagram
Yeah,
and just
that's what
put
I
some
was told.
placeholder stuff in there so
Yeah,
you don't look like you're a fraud.
yeah,
And then let that be that.
yeah. It is super. I love the functionality of like they just have to click a button and all of a sudden you're already connected on Instagram. And then you can, I mean, that has happened where I connected with somebody, we were on the phone within like 15 minutes and off the platform. So that transition is really, really appreciated. The other thing too is you have the flexibility to put in the handles in text form in your profile because somebody else said just put your email down there. Well, I don't know if I, you know what I mean? So for me, it's kind of like, again, still exploratory, but I'm really happy that you're having such great success with it. Like I do see that people have links to things like Cash App and Venmo and PayPal for things like receiving fees and even tips, right? Like somebody had like, feel free to buy me lunch. I was like, okay. So people they're definitely transacting and flowing. It's exciting to hear that people are getting funding for businesses at 35K. I mean, yeah, I definitely see numbers in there as well. And So one of the things that, sorry, what was on your next list? Because I actually wanted to talk about like calling in your tribe.
Well, you can totally talk about that. However, we do not use tribe anymore.
Okay.
Calling in our
Wow.
people, calling in our group, calling in,
Our
um,
Clubhouse members.
yeah. However, yeah,
Okay. I
calling all those things.
apologize for that. Thank you for the diversity and
It's
inclusion
all
nudge.
learnings. Yes,
There you go.
learnings.
So for those of you who need diversity and inclusion speakers, there's your girl.
Hi.
Very nice. Notice how she did that. Very neutral. I love it. Okay, so Clubhouse. What's the next thing that you really want to showcase about it? Because I really, the whole thing end to end is like a business grand slam in my mind.
Yeah,
So
so there was definitely talking about like the way that we rolled it out, what the execution was as well. And then also some great tips. So if you're going to be on the platform, what you were going to want to do is make sure that you're following clubs or you're a part of clubs or you apply like how do I say, you join into clubs, you join into conversations if that's something that you want to. But then also, so there's a center area which is called your hallway, and what shows up and what populates in your hallway is all dependent on who you're following. So if people are on stage talking about something that you're like in alignment with or something you want to know more about, then making sure that you're following them or following the club that they're a part of as well. And then of course making sure your bio is taken care of in full, because your whole bio is just basically an SEO um, gold mine. So if you put in like Toronto, if you put in like affirmations, if you put in like delegation, any of that sort of stuff, and people just go to search for it, you're going to be the ones that pop up. And then also, one of the things that, even though we're having amazing conversations in these spaces, you also have to be wary of some of the people that are on there, because yes, they might have 30,000, a quarter of a million followers on Instagram. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that who they are is authentic. So there's been a couple instances of people on there that are purely just really great talkers, and they be scamming people, getting them into enroll into some of these courses, or like, yeah, let's do a one-on-one meeting, and then I only charge like $1,500 to meet with me, and just like we'll go ahead and run off with people's money. One of my girlfriends, she actually was in a room, and one of the people on stage was somebody that she knew from in real life that was a total scammer, and that was talking about how this is how she teaches people how to do this and this, and she actually wasn't even in that field. Like, it was completely different. And so she was telling people like, yeah, this and this, and if you want to know more, like DM me and you can be part of my new cohort and la 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 la. And then she was actually kicking all the people that she knew her out of the room, and then blocking them, right? And so it's very great. How do I say it? I would say, if you have advice from people, because when I first got on, people were just dropping advice to drop advice because it was so valuable. And some of the things that people are saying is good. If it feels good, you can feel like you can apply it to your business and do it. However, just making sure you're properly vetting people and going with your gut versus the hype when it comes to either doing any money transactions or anything like that with people, like, it's super super important. And then also, if you are a business owner, how you interact on there is super important. So let's say, for example, there was this one person who was in a Clubhouse room with Joe Budden, who's like, I don't know, this hip hop celebrity type of person. He was like a musician, and then he has his own podcast. And so I guess what ended up happening is somebody did a screen cap, which is not allowed, and shared it, and was actually trolling Joe Budden with the things that he said in the Clubhouse room. Now, I say that because if you get in your feelings, or if you act out, like if you like, there was this one guy that got into a fight with this girl and then started a new room saying that she was a clout chaser, and was just going off about how disrespectful that she was, and da 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 da. It totally turned me off. Even if you are a multi-million dollar marketer, there's no way that I would ever work with you because of the way that you disrespect this person. So it's great because you can see people's online personas and their offline personas. Is this who you really are? Do I really want to work with you? And that's kind of like how a lot of these businesses, like based on what you're doing socially, makes me choose you. So let's say, for example, like Vans, right? Vans goes ahead and donates a percentage of their profits, or like, like an extra shoes to people whenever you purchase a shoe, right? I'm making this up. It's not Vans, it's someone else.
Tom's.
Um, Sorry?
Tom's.
Tom, thank you. And then so that's really good and all. And then if you met the founder of Tom's in one of these rooms and they were out there spewing some like racist rhetoric, then you're just all like, woo, I don't really like the feeling of this. I'm not going to buy from this person anymore. Right. So you have to make sure that you are watching yourself and that you're showing up in a real way. And then you're being socially conscious of how you are showing up, how people are absorbing you, because this has the ability to make or break a career sometimes, depending on how wild you get.
Yeah. I mean, that goes on any platform really, right? Which is again why I'm taking my time, because I don't know what the rules um and guidelines are. I mean, not to be kind and be human and be compassionate and empathetic, but like how many rooms can you have, and how what's the capacity, and all that kind of other stuff. So really just taking my time to get to know it. I have not had any of those kind of experiences personally. That said, everyone that I have spoken to that I have spoken to has issued the same warning. Be mindful, right? And so navigating mindfulness while building business, it's, even though you're on the phone with all these people and the initial feel good hormones that kick in because of being in a clubhouse, and it, be mindful about what you're doing, and be aware of why you're on the platform. So I do want to, can we touch on like how far widespread it is, not just in music, not just in business, but like this could potentially, I think one of the people that I met said, this is going to replace like even online dating sites, because you're going to see how people really show up and what's important to them, and you're going to be able to pop in. And um, what is your thought on that? Can we pivot over there, or are there other things on your
No, I'm
list
I'm
there?
ready to pivot when you're ready to pivot. I love this actually and there's been multiple rooms where it's like shoot your shot, or like
Shoot your
date,
shot.
yeah, like
I'm
dating
like,
advice
what's,
for men, or like ask
yeah.
ask a man a question, ask a woman a question, and like going back and forth. So there's also like been the great opportunity to learn from people.
Mm,
However, I find that what we used to do is we used to like meet people in real life, get a feel of their energy, their chemistry. And then so now if somebody's on stage and they're saying something and you're really attracted to like what they're saying, you're just all like, wow, like you're a real person that I would like to get to know. So you have the ability to turn on notifications and then just like get to passively hear more about a person when they don't think that somebody is listening, right? Or they don't like with that intention. And I feel like it gives you the opportunity to not only connect in a very authentic way outside of what are people like, what do people look like all the time, like in all of this different swiping apps, and really like take the time to connect on a deeper level. And then therefore if you wanted to roll over and like slide in their DMs on Instagram, or send them a tweet and be like, hey, I love what you were saying in this room, and like, if you're open, I would love to, have a private clubhouse room together with you, then that would be really cool. Especially during the Rona. I know dating has been really interesting, and some people are willing to have a phone conversation, some people are willing to have video conversations, some people are not willing to do either or. So doing it in a clubhouse makes it a little bit easier, because there's not so much pressure to like entertain or like keep the conversation going sometimes and stuff like that.
Yeah. It was an interesting concept, and the further and further I step away from it and I look at it, I'm like, this is essentially, when they say it's a clubhouse, it is really the water cooler, it is the bar, it is the the bus stop, right? This is the new engagement for right now, because we are separated. And while video is great, video also takes a little bit more energy. And so when we talk about mindfulness while you're building business, it's like what makes the most sense. So if you can target on Clubhouse what you're looking for, and if you're interested in getting into a relationship and you meet somebody, that was the line that I was not sure about, like, because when I'm working, I'm not thinking about getting together with somebody.
Hmm.
Like I'm working. Like, so that was, when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I could see how people would be that way. But I think there's some people who have like this professional code or ethic that are just like, that doesn't happen in that space because this is the hat that I wear when I'm over here, and the lines might be blurred. So let's talk a little bit about how lines can be blurred in Clubhouse, or we can talk about clubs, because I also want to talk about my experience walking into your room, getting notified when you were doing your
Yeah,
affirmations.
go ahead and talk about your
Yeah.
experience.
So I was maybe putting my phone down or something, and then there was a little banner that came out, and it was like Cheryl invited you into the room, and I hadn't been into one of your group. Is it called a Clubhouse club, or like I don't
Yeah,
even?
so you got the rooms, and then that room I was able to host underneath my Clubhouse.
Okay,
So it's
got
just
it.
a room.
Yeah. So your Clubhouse is called,
Create a life you love.
right. And so I was like, okay, let me see what this is about. And it was talking about a nightly affirmation and a weekly intention.
Yeah, so I usually do it on Sunday nights where I talk about what are affirmations, how do you use them, how can they affect your life, and then give people the opportunity to set a weekly intention and then create an affirmation so that like as you're going to sleep that your subconscious is steeping in it. And oftentimes people will come on stage and then we'll tweak it a little bit. So they'll say stuff like, oh, I want $1 million, or I want $1 million and I don't want to be poor. And we're just like, okay, energetically, that's not going to work for you. So what will work for you is I'm allowing more money into my life. I'm allowing great things to flow to me, that like life is always taking care of me, that things are always falling into place. And then just kind of loosen that up so that they have something that they can practice with to allow the abundance or allow whatever it is that they want to come into fruition.
Right. It was pretty powerful because she did bring me up on stage. And if you've watched some previous episodes, she really works with me with my language and communication and energetically lining things up better to work for my purpose and for the purpose of others that I'm thinking of. And so what I loved about it was not only are you getting this real-time coaching, so people get within that hour, I think your show's an hour. Is it called a show or a room?
It's just the room. Yeah. So
Okay.
I usually run it for an hour, but there's been times where it's been 2.5 hours. So
Right. And my experience in creating an event is you have a start time, you don't necessarily have an end time.
yes.
So and people can stay on and just stay on mute and listen. So things that I noticed, you were easily able to bring people onto a stage. You had multiple moderators, and that energy was really, really good. The second bar or category of people were people who are followed by the speakers. So they're getting highlighted. And then it's everybody else that is in the room. You had tons of people in that room. So I don't know what your numbers look like. What I loved about it was you created this space of a mastermind that was safe. So you had alluded to earlier, like you will protect your room. You want to make sure that the people in the room are like-minded, like-hearted. And that was exciting because here are people that I don't know where they're from. I was not clicking on them because it was like I was getting ready for bed. And yet I could hear you, and knowing you personally, I was like, I'm in a safe space. I am going to share in a vulnerable way. I am going to put myself out there. And I'm sure that other people learned from that moment in time, as I did from everybody else that went before me and after me. In addition, I got to learn more about the people that were in the room, particularly the speakers, moderators, like the top tier, and anyone else that you brought up, just to see what they were into. So I think this is part of the magic of going from like X number of members to now where it is of 2 million.
Hmm.
So really great experience for my first like jumping into one of your rooms. So how is it for you as a host?
Honestly, it's so fun because you know me, like when I'm operating in that zone of genius, I'm like, yes. And just being able to help without like with no expectation for return, or just even be able to connect with people on that space or in that space has been really, really juicy for me. But then I also feel like, so when I joined Clubhouse, the first room that I went into was this affirmations room. And I was all like, oh my gosh, you're my people. Like, I asked the universe to like connect me to more people because I was feeling kind of lonely. And then I got this invite to Clubhouse, and then I opened it. And then this was the first room. I was like, look at God, right? So, but in that space, I was able to find more like-minded people, more people that were into the same stuff as me. Because I mean, being a person of color, that's into this sort of stuff, or into, this mix of personal development and business and stuff like that, it can be kind of tricky, right? And so with being on Clubhouse, it gave me the opportunity to connect with people that I love, that I would have never been able to connect with on social media, that I would have never been able to find on social media. There's this one lady that I love her reels, and I was like, yes. And then she showed up in one of my clubhouses, or like I was on stage or something, and she followed me, and I was like, oh. And I followed her back, and I slid her DMs on Instagram. I was like, sis, guess what? We're best friends now. She's like, okay, cool. And like, just even the amount of collaborations, like one of our previous guests, Camille, Clubhouse, the girl that I had uh, in the room the other day moderating, Tony, Clubhouse, like all of my new friends are from Clubhouse. And then just even being able to have conversations offline and stuff like that, honestly, has been so good for my soul. Because everybody, as you know, Torontonians, like, we tend to be very busy and we focus on our work, and the time for socialization is like next to nil. When it comes to doing like crossovers, I feel like in regards to like business and play, I mean, it's really up to you. Like, you could even just listen into a group, but some of the girls that I know will do like a Caribbean matchmakers group, or like sometimes there's a group where people are just like playing music and stuff like that. Or there's like rooms where it's like Toronto creatives, like, what's the problem with Toronto? Why do we not like each other? Why do we like not support each other in the same way that Americans do? And just allow me the opportunity to just sit in and have, like, listen to those conversations, and then, put in insight if necessary. So I don't know. I feel like it's just like a great holistic networking opportunity, and without that, without as many barriers to entry, and then also without as much self-consciousness as some people might have as well.
I do want to touch on one thing
Hmm.
before time escapes us today, and that is the amount of time that one can put into networking outside of even Clubhouse. Because I know for me, I never really did a lot of networking. A lot of my stuff was over the phone, asking people what they needed, like the traditional kind of um, marketing or outreach. In this space, like, I can see it's very easy to jump on. It's very easy to start scrolling. It's very easy to get hooked onto certain things. So let's talk a little bit about time management and some of the pitfalls that can happen there, and how you're managing it so that you're staying, from a business perspective, profitable. Because I can see
Yeah.
how this really could turn into like an addiction.
Definitely. So when I first jumped on there, it was primarily like after 6 or 7 that I would really get into it. And that works really well because I'm on Eastern Standard Time. So there's a lot of people in this in Pacific area that would be getting on. And then if I ended up being up super late, then I'd be talking to a lot of people from like the UK, which I love. And FYI, if you're looking to be my soulmate and you're British, like, call me. Anyway, so within that, making sure that I had those timelines. And then even in the last couple of weeks, one of my good friends, who's like an amazing, amazing connector, she's been pinging me into rooms like at random times. And then so I used to always just show up for her because I'm like, hey, yeah, what's up, girl? Like, and then be in a room and there's like 10, 15, 20 people. And it was really hard to extricate myself sometimes. And then I'm noticing that my productivity is going down. So I actually have my notifications set to infrequent. So basically, if somebody pings me, then I get a notification, and that's pretty much about it. And I like to keep it that way because it's easier for me to ignore and focus on the things that I should be doing. Because previously, when I was doing networking, it was all more passive networking, or maybe one off, like, oh, this is a networking event, go to it, da 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 da. I used to be in a lot of co working spaces. So it was easy to just randomly have a conversation or have a meeting like at the table with a new person that you've never met before. Right. And that was really cool as well. However, at this point in time, like, I didn't like having to do like going to a networking group just to like on Zoom just to go and network. Like that didn't really feel good to me. And so just being able to do this passive level of networking where people are just like, hey, I love what you're doing, or I'm being able to say like, hey, I love what you're doing. Can we do a Zoom call? Let's have a conversation, book a time. Here's my calendar link. It's been really good. So I've actually gotten like 5 or 6 different meetings, and some of them are just to have conversations, like, offline and just, like, learn more about each other. Some of them have been consulting meetings, which has been really, really good, and then, yeah, but overall, I think it's very important to make sure that you're not staying up until, again, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning on Clubhouse. Regulate it like you regulate anything else.
So I would agree with that. If I've got like a couple of extra minutes and I know I'm just going to be tinkering, instead of say maybe turning on some music, I'll just jump on really quick and hear what's happening in a room and then bounce out if I feel like it's time for me to leave and do something. That day that I was on for 2.5 hours, I happened to wake up like super early in the morning. I had done my meditation, I had done my whatever, and I knew I was up for the day. I was on there from like 3:30-ish, like till more, like I didn't go back to sleep at that point. Um, and it was really interesting. And that's when I could see and hear the people that were on there super late at night. And I was like, as much as I like them and I will stay in contact with them, I will stay in contact with them going forward during my regular times, because that's not a normal thing. Like I might get up at 4, I might get up at 5, but that was just a one off. And that was a really great way for me to see the power of what's happening in these rooms, right? Because when you're leading a room the way that you do for your affirmations, you're really up on stage versus somebody just having an open room where anyone can drop in and the conversation can go anywhere. What was interesting was that it was business related. There was a lot of like social justice and like, what is your business about? And a lot of shares around what they're using for marketing funnels, how did they get into what they were doing? And, those are my people right there. It's just, you know what, you're my people, but not on a regular basis because you're up at 3 to 5 on an app. Um, but very, very, very interesting. Anything else that you wanted to cover on your list? I think you've got a lot. I think
No,
we covered a lot.
I covered everything that was on my list. And then,
Okay.
however, I do want to say, like, sometimes people will get addicted in the sense of there is so much information and you can easily get overwhelmed
Hmm.
and exhausted with the amount of information. I know for myself, like, I think in the first like month and a half, the amount of strategies that I got that I was like, I didn't know I needed to do this. Like, even when it comes to using Pinterest in my business, I'm all like, I don't know about Pinterest. And now I'm all like, I need to start doing this in order to grow in this way. Like growing my Instagram from Pinterest, I didn't even know that was a thing, right?
Hmm.
However, one thing that I will say is that make sure that you can action these things. So, like, take your nuggets of information,
Hmm.
sit with them, apply them, and then come back. There is always going to be more information. So, don't put the pressure on yourself to, like, be writing down notes all the time, because realistically, it's great to be in. And it's just like with school, it's great to be in the learning mode. However, you have to switch to the application mode. You have to switch to the implementation mode. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting there in the same space, spinning your wheels, delaying the thing that you need to go ahead and do in order to build your business. And then when you're ready, the next piece of information that you need will come to you, right? So just being very mindful of being scarcity focused on this app. Like, it's abundant focus. You're always going to be connected to the right people. You're always going to find the right people and be able to live your life that way as well.
I would agree with that. I think it's the reason why I've taken this approach. I've always been like in beta, LinkedIn, like all of these other things that have come up. Alignable was like I think the most another recent one. And and I do take my time to the point where it's like maybe I don't have a full profile. My approach with this was I built my profile first and then started to, based on my profile and the people that I was following, was taking this like organic thing. But I would definitely and I will definitely second monitoring your behavior and like, what is your intention for being on there? Um, I did want to say one thing. If you do want to get on, you've heard us talk about inviting people and then waving people in. So to wave somebody in, they have to be on a wait list, right? So you register for a wait list, like Google Clubhouse app or something, and sign up and hold your name. I think is
Yeah.
what they're
And make sure you
advertising.
get the right Clubhouse app because there are some copycats already.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So make sure that you get on to the wait list. And then if you're in our contacts or you're in somebody's contact records who who sees you register, I think they can just wave you in and we're not using our invite. So seconding also, like I got, was it one invite and then 3 invites and then 1 invite? So I'm on my 1 invite right now, I think, or 3. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So it's been fun. It's been fun waving people in and seeing people and just saying hi, hey, what's up? Like reconnecting really, really quick. I'm excited to see what's going to come out of it from a business perspective, if anything. Otherwise, it's just like, hey, I'm really grateful for the profile that I created. So if you want to see what it looks like, let me know and we'll snap ours and send it to you so you can start working on yours if this is something that you want to do, right? What kind of things do you have on your profile, Cheryl? Is it all
Well, it
please
starts off
notes and
with affirmation queen, hot on the scene. So there's that. I actually went through and did, I went through and I did the, how do I say, Clubhouse. I added in different locations from where I am, like where I've been. I've also added in just different keywords like guided journals, meditation,
Mhm.
affirmation cards, all that sort of stuff for the e-commerce side. And then I've also added in things like where I've been. So if you're looking at Forbes, then I'll pop up. If you look up like Brit and Co. or like Huffington Post, I'll pop up. If you're looking for like locations, like cities and like Toronto or Calgary, or then I usually use the airport codes. So I've got those in there as well. I haven't gone as serious in regards to like tweaking it and adding
I see your brain working.
yeah, because I'm
Like
looking at it
opportunity,
now.
opportunity, opportunity. That's all I'm seeing. So
Yeah,
this is
like
her in work mode.
there's so many
Come back
things.
to us. Come
And
back
then
to us.
I got a text message that I was all like, I
Yeah.
shouldn't have looked at.
Well, you know what? I appreciate you looking because I think the profile is probably the biggest piece on there for people to decide whether to follow or not follow you when you're in a room. So we
And then
might be able to.
also people are not just following me off of the profile. They're following me because they're clicking on my Instagram and seeing who I am and what I'm doing. They're clicking on my Twitter. And like, I mean, I probably haven't gotten any new followers from my Twitter, but because like, let's be honest. But Twitter
Yeah.
is just like,
Yeah.
y'all missed out like my Szechuan chicken from my order, something like that. Or like, can I return this? Why am I still on hold? Stuff like that. But yeah.
It's your it's your complaint line, man. That's what.
Honestly, that's the only thing
Yeah,
I really, because
just
like
call it what
people,
it
like
is.
honestly, people on Twitter will be like, hey, yeah, what's up? How do I help you? Step
Okay.
with a quickness. So
I like it. I like it. I know you're not the only one that I know that uses it for that. I haven't, but I do like it that you're on there. So yeah, my Instagram is private, so I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. It's okay. People like whatever. It's all right.
whatever. Or you have one for releasing 100, so you could just link that one.
Yeah, but I have one for Elias. I have one for like I have
So just link the Elias one for now,
yeah,
because that's the one that we're building businesses on, right? Like where
yeah,
you can at least receive income from, especially if you're having conversations. And I feel like a juicy opportunity for you is to start having conversations about delegation, about
yeah,
virtual assistants,
yeah,
about like how to build your business using like your zones of genius. Having people in there, like that could be the easiest way for you to build business and like
yeah.
get new clients, right?
Well, with the restriction of only having one Clubhouse, that's why I was like, let's use Get Moving Walk and Talk, because then I can talk about it while we're moving. It creates the win-win energy and it gets people moving, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. I will. I actually will put in all of the Instagram handles of each of the different businesses and just beef it out a little bit. It'll be
Okay.
fun. I'm not sure about the one for me yet though. We'll put one in. We'll put one in.
We'll put one.
Anything else that you want to cover? So
I'm
people know how to get
good.
on the wait list. We've kind
Mhm.
of covered our current experiences with it. I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Definitely try it out at least and see if it's for you. I don't know if I would say go out and buy a new phone.
Uh, it
I don't know if
depends.
I don't know if I would go to that extreme.
It depends on what you're using it for,
Right.
right?
So,
Like, especially if the phone is a business expense or the iPad's a business expense, like even if you're able to create, 2 new clients, what's $150,
mhm. You
right?
can get an iPhone for $150.
You can get an iPad.
Oh, but don't you need an iPhone with a phone number?
No, because you can what people have been doing is they'll use their iPad, but like they'll register underneath their phone number. They'll get the text to their phone number, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you'll put the code in your iPad, and
Okay.
then you could just use it through your iPad.
Okay. I don't know. Somebody on there the other day was saying that they applied for a Google number.
I mean, you can apply for you could get a Google number, but you still need an Apple device. So,
Right. I'm not into the hacking stage.
I
I'm
mean,
just trying to understand how it works.
I mean, it doesn't really make too much sense because the thing is, like, you get notifications that new people are coming on, or you're able to get into the Clubhouse because people have your phone number in
Mhm.
their contact list. So even if you create a new number, which you totally can, then you're not going to get notification that people in your network or your friends or family,
Mhm.
whoever are
Mhm.
on. Like
Mhm.
you'll get notifications that they popped on because it'll be like, yeah, your person in this mailing list, but then they'll never know if when you come on.
Right.
So that's, I mean, like, I feel
Yeah.
like that's a little too much work. But
I
yeah, you
yeah.
can create a Google
Yeah,
number.
I'm not trying to do all that.
I don't know about
So I hope everybody here has learned a little bit more about Clubhouse, or if signed up if you didn't hear about it from before. And maybe we'll talk with you live instead of recording through podcasts. Like you will be able to join us. So we're going to be talking about that on a behind the scenes level, and maybe announce something about navigating mindfulness being on there.
Yeah,
So
we're
for
probably gonna
now,
start recording some episodes on there, and then we could do a little Q&A after the episode wraps. It's gonna be delicious.
yeah, it's going to be fun. I love it. I love it. So thank you for joining us today, Cheryl. Do you have anything else to say other than
That's
have the
it.
best day
Let's
ever?
go home. Let's go
Let's
home.
go
We're at
home,
home.
even
Let's
though
go
we're
do
all
other things.
shelter at home. All right, folks. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.